Well, I can say, Sioux Falls, you guys showed up. This is a beautiful event, SME Leadership Summit. I'm excited about this moment, looking back at this great community, all the great things that we have going on in this phenomenal city. And I think back to my journey of growing up in this great city of Sioux Falls, a byproduct of the best high school in the land. Yes, Roosevelt. Any Rough Riders out there? But I like looking back at these moments in time that we have to really understand the value of what life is really made of. I think back to growing up with my parents and my sister here in this great community and the things that I gleaned from those moments in time with our family. See, we have a family tradition of getting together over Christmas time on Christmas Eve, spending the evening together, waking up as a family that next morning. And now as a parent, I realize that's the stuff that life is truly made of. It's those moments that we pass on that makes life worth living. I can think back to watching my mother working hard over her life, working 10-hour days and 12-hour days, learning that's where I got my work ethic from. And at times, we look back over our life and we learn to value what life is made of. Sometimes we get things from our parents, maybe not so great. My father, who's here today, I love him very dearly. He's learned lots of things from him. But one of the things that he passed along to me that hasn't always served me well was this thing called Hot Pockets, right? Hot Pockets is when you get $20 in your pocket, man, that money is going to go out within the next week. I don't want to be gender specific, but is anyone in the crowd out there, does anyone frequent this place called Target at least one or more times a week? Anyone go to Target? So you guys understand impulse buying, right? Or impulse spending. Or maybe that's just my wife. But I think back to understanding what it is that life is really made of in these moments in time. And when I was growing up, about my mid-20s, I started to value these moments, and I started to say, what am I doing at this current moment to invest into myself? These moments that I'm pouring into myself, because what I pour into me is what comes out of me. Now, when I was in my mid-20s, I found myself meandering mindlessly through this place called Sam's Club. Now, if you suffer like I did from impulse buying, Sam's Club is not the place to walk into without a plan, right? You get this 12-foot cart, and it feels like you don't have enough stuff in there, and $300 later, you're asking yourself, what did you really buy? But I found myself about 25 years old walking through the book aisle, and I ran across a couple books. There was a red book and a blue book, and I had never heard of this author before, but the titles really caught my eye. The first title was Today Matters, and I thought that was really interesting. I thought, man, I'm at that point like a lot of 20-something-year-olds as you start to evaluate what is life really about, where am I going, etc. And the second title was Thinking for a Change. And again, I thought this was really interesting as I was evaluating where I'm going in my life. Now, what I want to give you over these next 30 minutes is four things, just four simple things that I believe that if you can grasp onto these things, implement them into your life, they can help you on your trajectory from where you are today to where you're going. So the first thing is, I want to ask you or implore you to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where is your current trajectory today marching towards your success? Where are you at today in terms of your trajectory towards your success? However it is that you define success. Because when we start there, I think we can get into this place where in these moments, are we ready? Are we open? Are we aware to the value in the now? See, I think in today's day and age, we're inundated with all these notifications, all these different things that are coming at us from all around. But life, the value of life, the value of these moments really comes down to a simple few things that go deep into our lives. One of the people that I like to study and really understand success from is Steve Harvey. Everyone knows who Steve Harvey is. He's on 50 million TV shows right now. But he talked about in his late 20s when he became a comedian, his first 3 years, he was only making $5,000 a year. sending all that money home to his family. And what he attributes to his success going from that moment to now worth over $100 million was just a few key simple things. There's a lot of different information. There's a million books out there today. There's all kinds of podcasts. But he said, what few things can I really sit in and allow to go deep into my life? So I think for all of us, the key distinction that we have to get to, the space that we have to get to, is learning to distinguish advice from wisdom. Right now, as you're sitting here, we could shoot a message out on social media and you can get all kinds of advice from all kinds of people. But we have to learn to decipher what is really valuable. See, we've all heard that knowledge is power, but we also know that knowledge by itself is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. And taking that a step further, it's experienced knowledge that turns into wisdom. And so as we're navigating this thing called life, are we learning to distinguish the things that our friends are offering up as advice, the things that we're learning from other individuals, to learn that differentiation between advice and wisdom? So the second thing at Think 3D, we talk about that difference between having thoughts and thinking. The average individual has around 60,000 thoughts every single day, 60,000 thoughts. But very few people are spending the time to actually think. And so ask yourself that question: are we aware, are we open to what life is teaching us? See, I had heard a speaker say one time, the teacher doesn't talk when you're taking the test. And so again, what is it that life is teaching us in these moments? What are we gleaning on over our life to learn from these things to prepare for that next moment? See, when I got those leadership books about mid-20s, and then I climbed my way up in the career, I was running the credit card call center here in Sioux Falls for Capital One, only to get a phone call from my boss and said, hey, meet me at my hotel. I got to share some bad news with you. And he shared in that moment that the site was closing down, but little did I know it was all those investments, all those books, learning from wisdom and not just advice over this period of time, that I was ready for a moment like that to lead my life forward. And so again, let me ask you this question. Scale of 1 to 10, are you aware in this moment? How aware are you, again, of what life is teaching us? Because when we learn to be more aware and more open, we can get to the second thing. And that is learning to value the moment. Learning to value the moment. See, every single one of us here gets 86,400 seconds every single day. 86,400 seconds. And most people are not valuing their time. We've all heard time is money. But are we valuing these moments, valuing our time? I think a lot of people are treating time like a dirty penny on the ground. They don't bother to stop and pick it up because it doesn't have a whole lot of value to them. Show of hands, how many of you in the room have seen that Netflix special, Social Dilemma? Anyone see that Netflix special, Social Dilemma? A lot of you. Highly recommend that show because it brings into perspective this simple thought. Though this thing between our ears is the greatest supercomputer of all time, on the other side of our screens is a warehouse of supercomputers, and therefore we don't stand a chance. They shared that the average individual has about 3.5 hours every single day with their cell phone open. 3.5 hours a day, which really comes down to about 8 years of your life. 8 years of your life. And we believe that though time is free, it is the most precious resource we have. How we choose to spend our free time is going to determine how valuable we become. See, think about that just for a second. Think about a successful baseball coach, right? I've heard that the battle of life is really a battle for the mind. And the battle of the mind is for your focus. And you think about a successful baseball coach, in between innings, what are they doing? They're not having their players do more push-ups or work on the exterior. They're working on their mind. They're working on refocusing them just for that next inning. I think about a successful football coach. Again, every successful football coach has to go into the games with a solid game plan, But as all of us know, sometimes that first half doesn't go as we anticipated. Sometimes life is going to punch you in the mouth, and you weren't anticipating that. But one of the great separators of the greatest football coaches of all time is this thing called halftime adjustments. See, about a month ago, I turned 42 years old. And one thing I can promise you is you'll never see Tamien going through any level of midlife crisis. One of the primary reasons to that is as I've reached halftime, I've studied my game film. I've looked back of that first half of my life. I said, where do I need to make adjustments? I may not be happy with the points on the scoreboard, but because I've made the appropriate halftime adjustments, I'm sprinting into this third quarter of my life. I realize in these moments that every book that I read, every podcast I listen to, everything that I let sink deep into my life is compounding interest to what I'm trying to build in my life. See, all of us know who Warren Buffett is. He's one of the most successful and richest men in the world. And he built a whole career on this very thing called compounding interest. See, Warren Buffett, he made his first $1 million at age 30. Obviously nothing to sneeze at. Age 30 is a great age to be a millionaire. But it took him 26 more years of steady and consistent investment into himself, reading about 5 hours every single day. And then at age 56, he became a billionaire. And then once he had that momentum rolling, 24 years after that, he's now worth over $100 billion because of this thing called compounding interest. And so again, the challenge to all of us is, what are we doing right now? What seeds are we sowing today to produce that fruit of tomorrow? See, again, success is not a secret. All of us know things in our life right now that we could be doing, that we should be doing, but there's a gap. We believe that success, however, is on the other side of I don't feel like it. If you want to get into shape, you're going to have to get up in the morning. You're going to have to go through those moments in the cold South Dakota winters of not wanting to drive to the gym, and I don't feel like it. If you want to have a top 5% marriage, you're going to have to go through moments of sacrificing in investing time into that relationship. But the first thing in that, we have to decide, what is it in this life that we really want? What is that BHAG? What is that big thing that we're going after? See, one of my favorite basketball players, I'm a huge Lakers fan, about to win their 18th championship. But my favorite player was Kobe Bryant. And Kobe talks about when he was 13 years old, he was watching film of the greats, Magic Johnsons, your Larry Birds, your Michael Jordans, and he asked himself this very key question. He said to himself at age 13, I wonder if I have what it takes. I wonder if I have what it takes to be amongst the greats. And he said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And so he worked really hard. He got into the NBA. And during the offseason, the thing that made Kobe great, in the offseason, he would do about 4 practices every single day when the average NBA player was doing maybe 1 or 2. And so it was that investment in time, it was that compounding interest. When it came to game time, he knew he was better than whoever was in front of him. And so in those moments, we have to learn to say, what are we doing right now with the time that we have? I was having a conversation recently with Dana Dykhouse, and he had said something, I didn't know it back in the moment, but he said, don't trade your time for money. And that was the very thing that got me to value my time differently, to look at my life to say, what am I doing in this moment, and is it investing into what I want? See, I had one of these, what I call a driveway day. Anyone in the room ever gone home from work and you sat in your driveway or garage for a few minutes before going in the house? Right? You've all been there. And on this particular day, it was May 26th. It happened to be my wife's birthday. I'll never forget the day. It was a beautiful day like it was outside. I was working about 60 hours a week in corporate America, and I had nothing left. And I had to ask myself this really hard question, because I was really good at compartmentalizing, saying, I'm not going to take negativity into my house. And I didn't. But I had to ask myself this very key question. Am I about to walk into this house the best husband that I could be? And I also stood back and said, what am I giving to my kids? See, I have 3 daughters, which makes me a princess producer. And my oldest is 11 years older than my second child, and I had to ask myself that very question. Again, I know how quickly time goes by when your kids are no longer excited to see you come in the door. And I had to ask myself, am I about to walk in this household the best father that I can be? So what I want to do right now, because again, we know, I want to sink this deep just for a second. We don't get the time back. So what I want you to do at your tables, just for 60 quick seconds, I want you to share with your neighbor one thing. If I were to give you a free day every single month for the rest of your life, on an average work day on a Tuesday where you come home and you have the energy you need to invest into your family, into yourself, into your friends, into your hobbies. If I were to give you a free day, what would you do with that day? And what would that mean to the value of your life? For 60 seconds, share with your neighbor next to you and share, what would you do with a free day? And go. All right, let's bring it back together as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I want to give you that quick challenge because it's those moments that we don't get back. How much are we valuing these moments that we have? Because that's the stuff that life is really made of. See, we believe that a life of regret is one that is filled with an abundance of unintentional living. The reality is nothing of significance in life happens without intention. And so again, how intentional are we on an average Tuesday or a Wednesday in these moments in our life? See, I think back to that moment at 25, seeing that book, Today Matters, and there was something that resonated with me. I didn't know what it was in that moment, but I knew I had to value today differently. See, all of us know the saying, better safe than sorry. Only to find ourselves at the end of our life sorry that we played it so safe. And see, friends, today, June 1st, 2021, we are the youngest we're going to be for the rest of our lives. It doesn't get any easier from here in terms of having that energy. And there's a quote or a thought from the motivational speaker, Jim Rohn, that I love. He had talked about, as a human species, we spend so much time running from pain. And we know that no one ever avoids pain by trying to avoid it throughout their whole life. And so it really comes down to a choice. We can choose to either suffer the pain of discipline or we will suffer the pain of regret. But the difference is discipline only weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. And once we really learn the value of the moment, then we can do this next thing, which is look beyond the moment, look into the horizon. What is it that we're hoping for? What are we seeing and hoping for in our life? Taking you back to that question that I opened with, a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at currently in your trajectory towards success? Do you believe that it's possible? And I'm talking on a level that you have evidence to support that if you were in a court of law, you would be convicted that you do believe that success is possible for your life. See, I believe one of the problems we have in our country today is we have this disease of no longer dreaming in a country that was built on dreams. And so my question is, what are we dreaming about? What is it, that thing that we see on the horizon for our lives, for our businesses, for our communities? And there's 2 questions that I love asking people. The number one is 2 simple words: why not? When we really wrestle with that question, why not? Why aren't we going after the best marriage we can, or being the best community member that we can, or being the best version of ourselves that we can? And once we get past all the excuses and realize there's nothing in our way, we get to this other question of, what if? What if is a phenomenal question because we get to go deep and start to imagine what would your life be if we just took that step, if we stopped playing it safe and took a little bit of risk, took a little time to define what is it we're trying to create in our life. But I think one thing holding people back is that growth is a contact sport, right? We have to engage in the process to get to where we say we want to go. Again, if you want to get into shape, you have to go to the gym. You have to willingly face resistance and press against it in order to tear your muscles and to build muscle going forward. And so if you want that promotion, if you want to be that better version of yourself, it's going to take contact. We have to get intimate with these things. And my challenge at the core of this is if we don't have it written down, if we're not reviewing it on a regular basis, how can we ever get there? Because you cannot reach a destination that isn't defined. And so at Think 3D, we have this thing called the process. In the middle of the process, it's simply progress to success. And it's three basic things. First, define what is it that you want? What is it that you really want in life? And then second, define what work is it going to take to actually get there? What work is going to be necessary to get me what I want? And then third, where are your wins? Where are your wins? I would challenge you as you leave here today, ask the people around you. Now we're 5 months into 2021. Ask people, where are your wins? Because wherever there's a lack of wins, it's always preceded by a lack of work. And if there's a lack of work, we have to ask ourselves that question, do we really want it? One of my favorite quotes is by Les Brown. He said that want shows up in conversation, expectation shows up in behavior. And that was that moment, that was the paradigm that I had to face. I had to look myself in the mirror and say, what is holding you back from becoming that version that you know was possible for your life? See, go back to that simple premise that the average individual has 60,000 thoughts a day, and most people have the same, about 90% of your thoughts are the same as they were yesterday. And so the fact of that is, if you think the same way you did yesterday, most of us are in a prison to the thoughts of our past. And so how are we reinventing ourselves? How are we transforming the thoughts that we have looking beyond these moments? Simple question. If you were to stand here a year from today, so June 1st, 2022, you just had the best year of your life, the best year you've ever had in your life. What is one thing true that would have to be true personally, and one thing that would have to be true professionally to make that statement true? See, we've been asking that question since the beginning of the year, and I would guesstimate that over 90% of people won't ever even engage in something as simple as this two-part question, which really makes me challenge, again, what are we doing? What are we aspiring towards? Because every single year should be the best year of your life. Should be making a little bit more money, having a little bit more influence, a little bit more design to this life that we're trying to create. And once we understand that, we can get to this last one, which is beginning to convert moments into influence. This is the stuff that life is really made of. See, I was reading a study recently that said over 90% of people, when asked, do you know what your purpose is? Over 90% of people didn't know what their purpose was. And so my challenge to begin with is just be observant of the world around you. Be observant of all the divisiveness we just seen in this political system in this last year. And just be aware of how much darkness versus light, how much negativity is around us versus positivity. And then ask ourselves, what are we doing to contribute to this side of the fence? Now, that's not an attack on any of our characters, but again, do we have enough evidence to support this is a life, this is the future, this is the community that we believe in? She had a friend of mine about 4 or 5 months ago. She was challenging me. I was talking to my friend JJ, and she had said, Tamien, you're part of the problem. And really caught me off guard, and she was challenging me to put more content out on social media. She said, you have so much inside of you that you're not giving to the world, you're not sharing with other people. And I had to step back and say she was right. Now, friends, you may never find yourself on a stage in front of 1,300 people, but make no mistake about it. Every single day, you are on stage in front of somebody, your coworkers, your family, your spouse, your kids. And I want to share with you real quick, this is a little vulnerable moment for me. My 12-year-old, for my birthday about a month ago, had written me this card. And I work hard. We do a lot to impact the community. We do a lot in our business. And sometimes you wonder, am I making the impact in the places that it matters the most? And I'm not a crier, but my daughter made me cry on this particular day. I want to share part of this of what my daughter had said to me, which lets me know that we are on stage in front of everybody all the time. She had said, Dad, you work hard at your business. You strive towards the Dysart meaning each and every day. I can see it. Amira can see it. Mom can see it. Basically, everyone around you can see it. Whenever you walk into a room, it gets brighter and it makes everyone's day just a little bit better. You walk with your head high and a pep in your step, which is what I love about you. You walk out of the house with a positive attitude, even on Mondays, and return home with the same attitude. You're really optimistic and can find the silver lining in even the worst situations. I am incredibly happy that you are a father who takes action when you have something in mind. May all your dreams come true. And that was my reminder. We're on stage. So ask ourselves this question: what are we doing to become that better version of ourselves? Because no matter if you're in the workplace, at home, to yourself, a better you is better for everybody. And so we know that our lives contain within it around 28,000 days. If you're sitting here, if you're obviously old enough to hear this, obviously a lot of those days have gone by. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing with the days that we have left?
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's one jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood. And at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities, like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
See, I placed on your tables, there's a little Dixie cup with some jelly beans in it, and I would ask that you maybe pass that around the table and grab one jelly bean and just ask yourself that question. Go back to what you shared with your neighbor. If you had one extra day, what would you do with it? Because all of us know that every day is full of potential, is full of opportunities. And I go back to that moment of catching that first book, Today Matters. And it's in this moment that we get to choose, are we aware? Are we open? Are we ready for what life is teaching us? It's in this moment that we get to decide how much value are we giving to our time, this thing that we don't get back. It's in this moment that we get to choose to look beyond the now, to ask ourselves and really challenge, what is my dream? Am I going after it? And it's in this moment that we get to really challenge ourselves, what level of influence am I making on the world around me? See, I never thought in a million years that I would be on stage now 40 books later with the person that has had the most professional impact on my life, the most impact on my entire life. But as I look back, I realize how many times, how many people I've touched that I didn't make the impact that I desired. And again, one thing that I challenge myself with is I don't want to find myself at the end of my life sorry that I played it so safe. And so as I leave you, I want to challenge you with this. Every single person sitting here today, you are the author of your life. We get to decide, are you writing your script with intention, or are we defaulting to what society said success is? And so get that definition written down. Realize, recognize, and step into the fact that every single one of us has higher potential waiting to come outside of us. And so I'll leave you with that final thought, or more a challenge. Are we interested, or are we committed to making our moments matter? Friends, thank you for spending this moment with me.